Hello, everyone. My name is Kent Zier, and this is a project for the University of Notre Dame's Ethical and Professional Issues in Engineering course. I will be discussing the issues associated with Unit 61398 of the People's Liberation Army. Before I get too deep into the current problem of today, I think it is important to provide some general information on the relationship between the United States and China. The US and China have a long history of tension dating back to China's fall to communism in 1949. Since then, there have been countless peaks and valleys in the relations between the two. However, more recently, the US and the Chinese have clashed over things such as human rights, cyber warfare, which will be touched on later, as well as China's allegiance with North Korea. These three topics are a major issue between the two superpowers today, and without their resolution, things will never be quite right between the two. However, despite the differences, both nations are actively striving to work together to fix these problems. In fact, this mutual interest was displayed just last week when President Obama and President Xi met to begin working towards achieving some common goals. To continue moving towards the topic at hand, you must all first understand what computer hacking is and why people do it. In the computer security context, a computer hacker is someone who seeks and exploits weaknesses in a computer system or computer network. Although there are countless reasons a hacker might be motivated to partake in the act, three of the biggest reasons are for profit, for protest, or for challenge. Profit means that they are doing it to make money, which is seen through identity theft and stolen credit card accounts and whatnot. Protest, on the other hand, is a bit self-explanatory. Challenge, however, is one that not as many people know about or think about when thinking about a hacker. There are many people who simply try to break into heavily protected computer networks just to see if they can do it. It is all a game to them, a game that you win if you are able to outsmart the designer of the network, looking for any loophole they may have left vulnerable. Just to help put into perspective how widespread computer hacking actually is, and the varying levels of severity, here's a list of companies and people that have been hacked in 2013. Keep in mind that only half the year has gone by. So far this year, the social media giants Facebook and Twitter, technology superpower Microsoft, and entertainment corporation NBC all had their systems breached. In addition, both Michelle Obama and Justin Bieber had private accounts broken into. Now to discuss the major focus of this project. Unit 61398 is an organization of trained computer specialists bent on launching cyber attacks against Western countries such as the USA and Great Britain. Since their founding in 2006, they have launched over 140 known attacks, targeting government agencies, private companies, as well as journalists. This highly secretive group is headquartered in a 12-story office building in a residential neighborhood located about 40 minutes outside of Shanghai's city center. From this location, they've been able to steal hundreds of terabytes of information from government agencies and private corporations. To simply wreak havoc and demonstrate their power, they've also hacked into foreign power grids, gas lines, and waterworks. For this issue, the first group of major stakeholders would be the militaries of the nations involved. This is because if the tensions from this conflict escalated, the country's respective militaries would need to take action. The US and England government agencies, private corporations, and journalists are also stakeholders because they are the ones being targeted by the hackers. They are at risk of losing everything connected to the internet. The final stakeholders would be any other major international powers along with the UN. These are indirect players because if this issue were to escalate into a full-scale conflict, the other major world powers as well as the UN would definitely need to get involved. As would be expected, there are some major legal issues associated with this hacking organization. For starters, to operate, the group breaks and enters into secure networks where they are not supposed to be. This, of course, is against the law. Then, to make matters worse, once in the networks, the unit steals confidential and valuable information. They have also previously tampered with and destroyed entire networks which control very important things. Once again, this activity is frowned upon by those in the legal profession. The ethics of this computer hacking group is, of course, another major problem. When the Americans questioned the Chinese government about the group's activities and their involvement with the Chinese military, the Chinese government vehemently denied any connection. They went as far as to tell us about how they themselves had been the victim of numerous cyber attacks from the US, while also calling us unprofessional for making such accusations. However, after a detailed report by cybersecurity consulting group Mondiant, we have become fairly certain that this denial was an outright lie. Another ethical issue is the fact that the Chinese hackers have been targeting certain industries and stealing their secrets to improve their own military and civilian technology. This is wrong because they are using someone else's hard work and research for their own gain. When the question arises of who is at fault, there are three major parties, each in the wrong for different reasons. The first and foremost would be the Chinese diplomats and government officials. They are getting up on an international stage and claiming their government has no connection with something that we are almost positive they absolutely are behind. They even take it a step further and insult the Americans for accusing them, referring to them as unprofessional for making such accusations. The next party in the wrong here is probably the most obvious party, which is the Chinese military. They are at fault for actually launching the attacks against the American government as well as corporations. They are absolutely breaking the law and deserve punishment. The final group who made a mistake here is the US government. You may be asking yourself, I thought they are the victims here. What could they have done wrong? Well, the United States government should do a better job protecting their own computers. They have the world's resources at their fingertips, so there is no excuse to leave themselves and priceless information vulnerable for foreign eyes to see and steal for their own benefit. This is truly unacceptable. The first major problem associated with these attacks is the fact that we cannot outright prove that China is behind them. To make matters worse, at this point in time, it does not seem as though these attacks will be stopping anytime soon, so we must use this to our advantage. As each attack takes place, those in charge of investigating will be able to gather more clues to hopefully assist in putting the entire puzzle together. Oftentimes, computer hackers leave behind clues, and this situation is no different. Once sufficient evidence has been gathered, hopefully some sort of pattern can be determined to link the hackers to a specific person or group that is directly connected to the military. Finally, when the truth is made obvious, the US must make military threats to ensure the attacks come to an end. The second major issue associated with this conundrum is the fact that it makes it painfully obvious to the American government, as well as the public, just how vulnerable we all are. If it was desired, these hackers could relatively easily shut down our water systems, electric grids, and gas lines, wreaking mass havoc and bringing us to our knees. It is predicted by many that the next major war will not be fought with tanks, jets, and nukes, but instead behind computer screens. So how can we adequately defend ourselves, while also ensuring we remain on the cutting edge for the long term with some of the brightest minds in the world? The first step, to protect ourselves in the here and now, we must contribute a larger portion of the nation's defense budget towards cybersecurity. This will ensure that those in the field will have all the resources they need to operate at their fingertips. The next thing the government could do to help protect private industries is to offer tax breaks to companies who hire talented groups to monitor and protect their computer systems. Although this may sound a bit ridiculous and wasteful at first, it could actually save the US money in the long run. Every day, some of our best technologies are being stolen, which impacts its profitability down the road. The final thing the US should do to ensure we become and remain the elite in the field of internet intelligence would be to offer higher salaries for military systems defense positions. This would encourage some of the best students to skip out on the private sector to instead serve our country. These are the resources that I used to help complete the project. Thanks for listening, and I'm excited to tell you more in my final 10-minute presentation.